Hey guys, I'm Marina. It took a very long time to get myself to do this video, but I really wanted to, not only for myself, but for other people who suffer from this as well, or people who don't know what this is, and I can bring some awareness and understanding to an anxiety disorder that I personally suffer from. It's something that is very particular, and when you have it, you feel like you're the only person in the world that suffers from it, and you don't want to talk about it with anybody else because you feel as if nobody's going to understand. So I just bottled it up and never discussed it and kept everything personal to myself instead of really addressing the issues at hand and taking care of it and really working towards finding a solution and bettering myself. This anxiety disorder, it may seem that it is so rare, but it's not at all. It's just the people that have it, we don't want to talk about it. So I have trichotillomania. It is a anxiety obsessive compulsive disorder. It can vary between anxiety and OCD. They're really not sure which it is. It kind of just depends on the person, but it is classified by an individual pulling one's hair out. Hair could be all over your body, as far as your eyelashes, your eyebrows, and your scalp. Personally, for me, I only play and pull for my scalp, not my eyebrows or my eyelashes. Trichotillomania is pretty self-diagnosed and recognizable. You know when you have it. Symptoms really are as followed: when you repeatedly are playing and pulling and you cannot get yourself to stop. That's when you know essentially it's a problem. All of this causes major distress, and it can affect you socially, occupationally. You really never feel secure within yourself. You're always worried about what other people are going to think about you, if people are watching you play with it, and the fact that you personally cannot get yourself to stop. When you play or pull with your hair, it's almost like that sign of relief. And this anxiety, it doesn't even release anxiety. For me, it only creates more because I just can't get myself to stop. Many have an automatic hair pulling, where you're doing mindless activities and you're not even realizing that you are playing with your hair. Like if you're bored and it's out of a sight of boredom, or you're watching TV, or you're driving, this is kind of that automatic type of hair pulling when you're going to pull in those kinds of situations. Another is for behavioral, when you are in that anxious type of environment and you're using this as, you feel tension or anxious, and this is a sign of relief for you and almost a coping mechanism in a sense. Trichotillomania is in a category of body-focused repetitive behaviors. Those are hair pulling, such as trichotillomania, nail biting, skin picking, or lip biting. All of those are for the same issues, as far as most people that do have these issues are diagnosed with anxiety, depression, or OCD. And I'm not just talking like you bite your nail a little bit. Like, I started biting my nails in elementary school. This is kind of when things started, but I would bite them to the point where they would bleed. There would barely even be a nail. I couldn't fully extend my fingers because if I did, I would bleed even more and it would hurt so bad. I was a catcher for softball, so in my mitt, I remember when I would catch, I would literally try and hold my hand like this because I couldn't fully extend my hand because it would hurt that bad. I remember my mom would try and get me to stop. We would buy that nail polish that you would put on. It would taste disgusting if you bit your nails, but it didn't stop me from having my hands always in my mouth. In the 7th grade, I literally remember where I was. We were at a family friend's house, and my mom was just so concerned. She was saying to my family friend, "Marina can't stop biting her nails. Like, do you have any suggestions of ways in which she can, maybe stop?" And I remember this woman was like, "Every time you bite your nails, why don't you twirl your hair or something?" And I remember I was like, oh, maybe I'll try that. I would just go like this. And I was like, oh, whatever. But somehow, I kind of started to develop this sort of connection to my hair. I started to just play, feel everything, feel the texture of my hair. It then escalated where I would have my hand always right here on the top of my head, and I would just pull. I started to pull only from the top of my head, and I remember I was pulling so much. What's crazy is I remember saying to myself, what's a couple of strands going to do? We have millions of strands of hair on our head. And I knew from then, like, this was going to be a problem if I wasn't able to get myself to stop. So another symptom is, you know, people who play, they'll put their hair in between their lips, and it's all about the texture. So you put it between your lips for essentially that better texture. Coarseness of the hair. The thicker hair, the better. When it had a texture that was unique, I knew that hair's out of place. I need to pull it. It's like perfect. And then you just play, just like this. And it sounds so embarrassing to talk about and something extremely difficult. And this is literally an anxiety disorder that no one talks about. In 7th grade, when there was hair that I liked and I wanted to play with later, or it was a good strand, I would save it on my nightstand and play with it later. And I would literally keep a stash of them, like 10 of my favorite hairs, up on my nightstand. You can call me a freak. I'm just being honest, and I'm just embracing it. I'm embracing my mental illness because that's the first step of recovery and moving forward. So moving forward from the 7th grade, when I found those bald spots on the top of my head, I said to myself, I have to think of an alternative here or else I'm going to lose all the hair up on top of my head. So I said to myself, why don't I pull and play from the sides? So I started to only pull and play on the side. And it started just being very compulsive, where it was only my left hand right in here all the time up until literally now. Just here all the time. Here, pulling. So if I go like this, and if I take this back strand of hair that measures right here, this side only measures to right there, and the rest is gone. So I used to have absolutely beautiful, long, thick brown hair, and it was just done. Like in college, I remember this so clearly. I had a haircut, and I said to myself, I knew my pulling was really, really bad at this point, and I was petrified for this haircut. So I decided to try and trim my hair and fix it by myself before this haircut. And it obviously ended up cutting my hair wrong because I'm no hairdresser. So when I went to go and get this haircut, I remember the guy was there, and this was not my usual lady that used to cut my hair, and he was like, who cut your hair? And I was like, oh, like, I got a really bad haircut somewhere, and, you know, I need you to just fix it. And I remember he brushed my hair as it was wet. He took a mirror, and he held it literally so I can see it mirror to mirror. And this entire bottom length of my hair was gone. It looked like this. Literally, one hair measured here, half my head measured here. And I was mortified. I didn't even know what to say. He was like, this person who cut your hair really messed up this bad. And like, I didn't know what to say. Like, I didn't want to admit it to him that like it was me. I was petrified and embarrassed and scared. And I just told him, like, cut it off, like, make my hair even. And I remember my hair was so short. Well, short, not completely short, but just really short for my personal liking. I just cried. And in that moment, I was like, I don't know what it's going to take for me to stop. Then I had this miraculous idea that ended up being a fail. But anyway, you know who you are if you were the one who convinced me to do this. So now you kind of understand why. But I had this miraculous idea that I'm going to get hair extensions so that I could then play with fake hair instead of my own and just pull this out. It was a great idea, but it didn't solve the fact that I was still pulling my hair out and that I was still anxious all the time, having anxiety attacks and pulling the shit out of my hair. I don't wear these anymore, by the way. I'm over them. coming out of college and all this stuff, I just said to myself, like, this has to end. Like, my anxiety got so bad to the point where I couldn't eat anything, wasn't sleeping. Literally, my mind was just consumed with anxiety. I couldn't even think about anything else straight. I literally was in circles all the time. Like someone was just scribbling lines like this in my head. It felt like it was never going to end. It lasted all day, essentially. Every day was just awful. It like attacks, deep breathing, like my heart felt like it was beating out of its chest. I just couldn't stop. I was on a rampage. I was just defeated. So I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to the doctor and I'm going to address this and I'm going to fix this. And even when I did go to therapy and we did therapeutic exercises and meditation, nothing got me to stop. Also, in college, I had bought a habit-aware bracelet that zapped me when I would play with my hair. If you look it up, it's for people with trichotillomania, and I remember it's the only thing I asked for my 21st birthday was a habit-aware bracelet, and I defeated the bracelet. It didn't work because every time it would buzz, I would do it, but I would wear it when I had exams in class, and I would be mortified when it would go off and buzz. I needed to truly say to myself that I wanted to stop and see progress, and like, the bracelet just wasn't working at the time. And I told everybody it was a Fitbit. I'm sorry, I'm a liar. Now everybody knows the truth. Went to the doctor after all these horrible anxiety like attacks this winter, and I was really lucky that a psychiatrist was able to see me. I couldn't even be more thankful, and I say this in this most sincere way, like, it is okay to come out and say, I can't do this on my own. Don't be afraid of, other alternatives. Don't leave yourself in a state of mind that it is affecting your daily life and your ability to function. I even remember the few people that had called me out for me doing it or had seen me, like, they're like, oh, are you eating your hair? Because I would put it in between my lips. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And I didn't know what to say, but it's because no one really brings any awareness to this, and internally, you just feel completely self-conscious at all times. All the time, I was like, who's watching me play with my hair? Every time I would style my hair, I would have to touch the damage that I've done and even out what I've done and make sure my hair looks styled to hide what I've done. When I would put my hair in a tight bun or a ponytail, I would make sure like I would push the hair forward to cover any spots that I had. It's a lot more than you think, because every single time you touch your hair, you engage with these horrible, anxious thoughts. So for me, this fitness page and this last year of just like growing internally has done so much positive for my mental health, because not only was I coming from a place of low self-confidence and being self-conscious of myself at all times, I managed to build that up without even stopping playing with my hair, because now stopping playing with my hair is relatively new to me. That automatic where it's a mindless thing where you're like, oh, I'm bored, like whatever. No. So for those who are going to watch this video and be judgmental, just know that that would be being judgmental towards a mental illness. And if it were you and you were battling something that no one really knew about and you were just bringing awareness to something, you would want the same respect. So with that being said, thank you for those who, have seen me play with my hair and have accepted it and are there for me. I literally have only told a handful of people of the intimate details of what I do. It's not something that I talk about, so thank you for being there for me if I have discussed it with you. So if you are battling trichotillomania, just know that I feel for you and I'm here for you and I understand you, and you don't have to go through it alone, as well as you will find the help that you deserve. I really appreciate it. This is literally 100% one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, to be so brutally honest on here in front of everyone that I don't know, and that people that I do know that don't even know that I've been battling with for years on end. Thank you so much for listening. If you listen to all of this,